Do you have ambitions to be Prime Minister?
I have ambitions for reform to be the biggest party at the next general election.
And breaking right now, two major Tory defections to Reform UK, with the long-standing leader of the Southend Conservatives leaving for Nigel Farage's party after, wait for it, 30 years, alongside a rising star colleague. This comes after a massive swing in last week's Crewe West election from Labour to Reform UK, establishing the upstart party firmly as the second force in British politics. But Nigel Farage insists he isn't trying to secure a defection from former Home Secretary Suella Braverman. Watch.
Busy autumn for you. You've got your conference coming up. Are you expecting any defections from the Conservative Party to Reform UK, namely Suella Braverman?
I haven't been trying. I'm not really interested.
Why do you say that?
To me that because Conservatives spend their lives hating each other and fighting each other. I want to try and build a unified party that believes in something. And if there are some Conservatives who are prepared to put behind them all that petty infighting, then fine. But I'm not spending any of my time, or any of my effort doing it. Frankly, what I've been doing for the last month and a half, above all, is building a national political structure for reform so that we can fight elections in all of the years to come. That's my main focus.
Speaking for the first time about their decision to ditch the Tories for Reform UK, I'm delighted to be joined now by Tony Cox and Daryl Jones. So Tony, 3 decades as a Tory, the leader in Southend, but you've upped and left to join Farage, and actually you've called some of your ex-colleagues, sort of along similar lines to what Nigel was saying there, as savages. So this was a big decision. What sparked it?
It's actually a journey. One of the things that happened locally was we were behaving very differently to the National Party. Now, when you leave a political party, you do go on a journey. There's no doubting that. And as I say, 30 years of Conservative Party membership. I've been an elected Conservative councillor for 20 years. I was leader of Southend City Council just last year. First Conservative leader of the City Council for many a year. COVID tested my patience. Vaccine passports nearly tipped me over the edge. And it was only the local party chairman said, look, what we're trying to do here locally, stay. So we did. And after the general election, it became abundantly clear that they wanted to go the same way as what the National Party were doing. And what Nigel has said there is absolutely spot on. It's not just petty infighting. Look, some of the things that I've had to deal with, I'll take to the grave with me. But the behaviour was appalling.
And so you're talking about from Conservatives?
Absolutely. And the behaviour...
What sort of thing?
Well, let's just say potential assaults on council workers.
Oh my goodness.
That's minor. But that gives you some things. And it did come to a point, Dan, where I was stopped liking myself. When you stop liking yourself, you have to do something about it. And it was all, at the moment, the Conservatives are just tearing themselves apart. This leadership election, which has only just started, will be a bloodbath. And it's a bloodbath because what they wanted to do here in Southend was lurch further to the left. And it was one of the leadership contenders who actually said, and they got it spot on, when they said that they wanted to talk like Conservatives but govern like Labour, there was not a true word said.
No, indeed. And that's what they have been doing. Daryl, what about you? Why make the decision to defect?
For me, as Tony said, it is a journey, and my journey was a bit different to Tony's. He's been in the Conservative Party for, as he said, 30 years. Now, I've grew up in a very Labour-dominated area, but I always had centre-right views. And I think with the Conservative Party, they've not had a real challenge to maybe centre-right views ever. So I naturally got drawn into, okay, you got centre-right views, you're a Conservative. So I joined the party. I wasn't a career politician, and instantly I saw the toxicity, and it's like the rot starts at the head. In what I saw nationally, I couldn't really agree with a lot of it. Tony touched on when with COVID, I wasn't happy about how we managed that. I wasn't happy about the parties that were happening, but we couldn't see our grandparents, for example. When Rishi was ascended to the throne of the party without the members being engaged, I didn't like that. But locally, under Tony's leadership at the time, we were very separated. We were a cohesive unit. There was no toxicity there really. Well, I didn't see it. We was great holding Labour to account when they was administration. I think we did a good job in administration when we were there. What came to a head with me is locally you can only part with so much, right? In a party, I was already losing interest nationally, and I just wasn't true to myself. Locally, the toxicity started flowing down. I don't know if you know much about Southend. There's an East and the West association. There's a lack of respect amongst each other. I say amongst each other, amongst from I'll say over half of the group, which fed through. And I'll sit around thinking, I was like, I wouldn't put up with this in my daily life. I've got too much integrity for this. I've had enough. And it wasn't the case of, oh, let's just jump ship to another party. As Tony said, there's a journey there. So I could have gone, we did go independent for the interim, but I looked at the policies of reform. I was like, that doesn't just resonate with me as a political side of it. There's also a common sense side. It's like a lot of these make sense. So even though they're a startup, if you say party, what are they doing? How are they building on that? We can't just have a one and done general election where they've kicked it to the Tories and they fizzle out. What really solidified it to me is how professional they're becoming. The associations they're looking to set up, the branches they're looking to set up, the membership growth, really establishing themselves as the party to either oppose Labour or what looks like, if we continue in this trajectory, really challenge for government in 4 or 5 years' time.
Well, I wanted to ask this actually. I wanted to ask this because, Tony, some people have said I'm crazy, but actually before the election, the most recent election, I wrote a piece saying that I believe that Nigel Farage will be Prime Minister in 2029. Now, of course, a lot of it is down to Nigel. Is he 100% committed to this cause? But he says he is, and he says his absolute goal and his number one desire is to make Reform UK the number one party in 2029. You look at what he was able to do in just 4 weeks, with Reform UK coming second to Labour in so many constituencies, especially across the Red Wall. So tell me, do you think Farage can be PM by 2029? First, though, digestive issues are caused by a potential toxin that's in all of the, quote, healthy foods that scientists have been telling us to eat with a fraudulent food pyramid for the longest time. And this potential toxin causes digestive issues, according to Dr. Gundry, a world-renowned cardiologist. This is affecting millions of people nationwide. Warning signs include weight gain and fatigue and digestive discomfort, plus stiff joints, even skin problems, actually. Well, Dr. Gundry explains these side effects are often mistaken for normal signs of aging because digestive issues develop usually over a matter of years and sometimes even decades. I can assure you that the damage is probably caused by these health foods and is far from normal. The good news is you can easily help fix the problem from your own home. It's very simple. You just have to know which foods are actually healthy and which contain this hidden potential toxin. So you can find this yourself if you visit right now gutcleanseprotocol.com/outspoken. That's gutcleanseprotocol.com/outspoken. Now, you can see the QR code there on the screen, so you can just use that, enter the website, but I've also put the link in our show notes on YouTube and Rumble. Because after years of research, Dr. Gundry has decided to release an informative video to the public. I've watched it. It's free and uninterrupted, showcasing exactly which foods you need to avoid. So go find that video at gutcleanseprotocol.com/outspoken and click on the link in the description below.
It's a tall order, but he is of the belief it can be done. And as you say, what has been done in 4 weeks, but also as well, what Daryl and I have found in just a couple of weeks ourselves. I mean, for example, we found out the number of fully paid up members within the Southend City area that Reform have. Let's just say it's double to what the local Conservative Party is. When we found that, Daryl and I literally fell off our chairs, and we were told, or you were used to having low numbers. Low numbers, it would make Reform the biggest political party within Southend in terms of number of members.
Which is a revolution. It
is a revolution. I mean, just before I come on your show today, I had one lady ask me to go round to actually get help where she doesn't have internet on IT to become a member. It's these things just from the fact of what Daryl and I have done. But one thing as well, and it should go unnoticed here, is we're talking about the petty and poor behaviour of the Conservatives. And I think this weekend, nothing more solidifies the decision and on the nasty behaviour is just looking at what Nadine Dorries and Matt Hancock were trying to do to thwart a public inquiry over the deaths of over 2,000 mental health sufferers in Essex. Now, the Lampard inquiry starts today, and it was well publicised in the Telegraph. What does that solidify about the nasty behaviour when it has been identified that there has been failings and you didn't want to deal with it? And it sums the Conservative Party up at the moment is just being fixated on going through processes rather than dealing with the real root cause of poor behaviour.
Yeah, really interesting, actually. The other thing that we're seeing is the hard left and the mainstream media start coming for Reform UK. Now, I always knew this was going to happen. It was actually a bit like my experience at GB News. First they laugh, then they try and ignore you, and then actually they try to destroy you. And so we saw this article in the Times last week saying that Reform UK membership has been driven by quote-unquote keyboard warriors, with a Labour MP saying many of these are in their Transformers pyjamas in their mum's basement, but what we haven't seen yet is Reform on the doorstep or speaking to voters. So, Daryl, you respond to that, please. Are you in your Transformers pyjamas?
I most definitely am not. Although I wouldn't mind being them right now. But when these... It's not just the left. You've also got the Conservatives also attacking Reform at the moment. I don't blame them. It's the first challenge they've had. Labour and Conservative over the last, I'll say, over the last 5 years, could you really see the difference between Labour and Conservatives? I don't think so. So this two-party system, it benefits Labour and Conservatives to get rid of any challenger. And what we're seeing with this growth amongst just the general population, they're seeing the common sense, they're seeing community being spoken about, seeing the issues that they really care about now being addressed. Labour and Conservative, or the left and the right, they are concerned that they're not going to be the power parties anymore. You've already said Farage could be Prime Minister in 29, and the trajectory we're on, he very well could be.
Yeah.
And that's what they're concerned about. That power is being taken away and given back to the people, if you like. The policies that they've put in place, the issues that we're now talking about, the voices that me and Tony are giving to Southend alone is resonating. And the only way they can combat it is by attack, because they can't attack the policies, they're attacking the people. But the problem is, by attacking the people, it's the same people you're going to beg for votes in 29. Conservatives are going to go, all you Reform voters, come back to the Conservatives. Don't worry what we said about you 4 or 5 years. Come back
Don't
now.
worry how we ignored you. Don't worry about how we pilloried you as being on the far right and tried to pretend that actually you're you're too ridiculous to want to leave ECHR. No, I think you're completely right.
Yeah.
Tony, just a final word about what Farage said at the top of the segment regarding Suella Braverman, saying that he wasn't really interested, isn't really trying. Now, I don't know if that's true, actually, because I think Suella would be a real asset to the party. You've made the move after 30 years. So what is your message to high-profile Tories like Suella Braverman, who, let's be honest, has been treated absolutely appallingly by CCHQ and Conservative Party headquarters? Would you encourage her to join you?
What's interesting with what Nigel said is he doesn't have to go out begging, because there's plenty of people that, as Daryl and I know, already in the system that they have actually now have a head of defections. Now let that sink in. He doesn't have to go begging, because there are enough people wanting to make that switch. And if people don't want to make that switch, they'll stay where they are. And those that do will do it, in their own time and in those journeys. But as I say, there are plenty of people within the Conservative Party who will have tales to tell about how they're being treated. So I would agree, he doesn't have to go begging, because there are enough people at the door waiting to join, as Darren and I found out. And I don't think we're going to be the last. And certainly after us, there was one more in a neighbouring constituency who made that jump. There was 4 in a weekend. As I say, he doesn't have to go begging, because people are already doing that right now.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I would say, for MPs like Suella, someone who I have a lot of respect for, like Priti Patel, who I have a lot of respect for, you're not winning. You're not winning your seat again at the next election with a Conservative next to your name. Now, that might be shocking to you. That might be a really difficult reality, but I guarantee you that is the case. Yes, some Conservatives and Lib Dems sort of seats who are on the wet woke side of the party might, but I believe there is a revolution coming in British politics. So Tony Cox, Daryl Jones, thank you so much for joining me to talk about your decision to defect from the Conservative Party, and in Tony's case, after 3 decades, which is a really big decision. Thank you both so much. But what's so important about being independent is I only ever tell you about products I use and truly believe in. So let me talk about Verso. As you know, I've entered my 40s really thinking about staying healthy. And I exercise, although I injured my ankle at the weekend, so can't at the moment, which makes my nutrition even more important. But that will only get you so far. Scientists like David Sinclair have proven we can now reverse aging with interventions that go beyond healthy habits. For me, I wanted a product that I knew would enhance everything I was already doing, but one backed up by solid evidence. So that's why I use Cellbean by Verso. It has scientifically proven ingredients that fight the effects of aging by increasing NAD+ levels, which are the stuff that power every cell in your body. I've been taking the product for a number of months now. At the start of my day, it has been transformative. Fasting's easier, I've lost fat, I'm eating less too, believe it or not. The team at Verso tell me that is due to its blood sugar regulation effects, which lead to fewer cravings. I'm sleeping better, waking up with more energy, actually feeling happier too. So this product has taken years off my life. I would love you to experience the same thing. Verso publishes third-party testing from each batch produced to guarantee you are getting what you paid for. And I'm very excited that today Verso is giving us an incredible offer. If you head right now to buy.ver.so/outspoken, you will save 15% on your first order. All you need to do is use the coupon code outspoken. The link is in our show notes on YouTube and Rumble, but I'll repeat it for you now. buy.ver.so/outspoken. Use the coupon code outspoken for 15% off. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.